Good morning and welcome to another edition of the 10,000 Club. Today it's Kim Anderson and myself. Hey, Kim.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am good.
Good. You look sunny and refreshed. You unfortunately had to be with family this weekend as you said goodbye to your stepdad this weekend. So I'm glad you could spend some time with your family and doing that. But welcome back to work this week. So
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was very good. So
good.
So here we are in the midst of the spring market, right?
I know. We're missing Marissa today. She's with a bunch of agents at 5-Star who are all over at Egypt Valley attending Ninja. And I had the privilege to be over there for a couple of days with them. And that was super fun. So I know you're going today, right?
Today. Yep. As soon as we're done, I'm going to head up there. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone. It sounds like we have a full classroom.
You do. I think there's 64 people in the room. So
oh my goodness,
that's
great.
It was filled. So excited to see and hear from all of them. And they were certainly excited, and they were drinking through a fire hose while I was there. So they're taking in a lot. So yeah, great.
Yes.
Well, today we're going to be talking about realtor etiquette. And, if you're new, a brand new realtor, what do you do? How do you, what are we supposed to do when we show up? So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, because, just making the appointment is just a piece of that. So.
Yeah. So, I always think when I talk with new agents, you don't even know what a key box is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you kind of know. So you have your first showing, your nerves are running, right? But even if you're not new, you still have a lot of responsibilities to get into the key box. You have those MLS sheets if you carry those. You're trying to figure out where the lock box is sometimes, right? So there's a lot of things that we can do ahead of time, right? Before we even get to the door.
Yes.
So we can.
I like that, because sometimes, we just expect that the key box is going to be at the front door, but there's oftentimes notes inside of showing time that tell us the exact location of the key box.
Right. And so, it's really important to start out to read that MLS sheet and read the disclosures. Anytime I'm going to show properties, I want to I print out the disclosures, I read them, I read the MLS sheet. For sure, we need to read the agent remarks. I have one right now that is a little challenging, and I have a seller who's home and I have to be there. And so I had an agent come up to the door and knock and try to go in. So it's really important. I knew that agent had never read the agent remarks, right? And then they're calling me like, is there a key box here? So I knew they didn't read it. So number one etiquette would be read the MLS sheet, right? Read the agent remarks. That's where I always start.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you're walking up to that front door and you haven't read the agent remarks, you don't know where the lockbox is. You can see that it's not there. You already don't look like the pro.
Right. So if we start there, I always read the agent remarks. I print them. I personally print out an MLS sheet for my clients, even though they've seen it online. I bring a copy of the MLS sheet and the disclosures, so that as we're referencing what year was this, what's the lot size, you have something in front of you. Now, if you're really good with your phone, the problem with the phone is in some areas you don't have a connection, right?
Yeah. And you know what I like too about that, Kim, and I do the same thing, is I take those with me. I also give my clients that information before I go, because let's face it, clients today sometimes know more about the neighborhood and maybe even that particular home than you do. But what they don't know is they don't know what's on that disclosure. So what we want to do is you're trying to prove your value and showing them that you are truly the pro on this home. And so provide as much value as you can by bringing those things with you, or certainly letting them know in advance, hey, this house, you're a first time buyer with 3% down. I see the roof is 25 years old. So we may need to have a conversation about the cost of what maybe a new roof is before we waste the seller's time cleaning and exiting the home, and then wasting your time and your client's time walking through a house that truly they should not purchase.
Right. That's true. So, and then once we get to the door, so I'm like you, I send them the disclosures ahead of time so that they can see before we even set the appointment. It's just about being efficient, because there are some deal breakers and they might just go, there might be something on that disclosure that they don't even aren't even interested in that home, right? So then secondly, for me, you get to the door, you need to hang on to these pieces of paper, open the screen door, find the lockbox, juggle everything in your hands. And then you get up there to the door and there's no lockbox. And you're going, oh, where's the lockbox at? Hang on a minute, I gotta go find it, right? And so you're doing this, oops, I think I just froze up.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you did froze, but it's really a good
I'm
pose.
stuck right
It's kind
there.
of like, there you are, strike a pose. Yeah.
Okay. So that would be the next thing, is know where that key box is, and is it going to be on your central lock, or will it be a combo, right? So just getting in the front door, it can be either smooth or it can be a little shaky sometimes. So those are just basics when you get in the door, right?
And you know what? We've done this before. I have done this before. I have not been the pro in this area, just like you just expect. Well, even this many years in, it's going to be right there, and you can miss it. We miss it, but these are the things we're trying to teach you to be, to be the pro.
Yeah. And I actually showed a house 3 or 4 weekends ago, and even though it was on central lock, there was no signal. So just things to prepare for that help that entry into the home to be smooth, to make everything just seem seamless. That's our job, right? Is that we've got it together. So the other thing I'd like to remind agents about is I remind my buyers, I don't typically talk about the home inside the home, because many sellers have cameras and they're listening. Now, we won't get into the rule about listening, but often they do, right? It's supposed to be posted. They're supposed to have permission, but still, just body language, just know that most of the time the seller may be watching, or it's being recorded from the minute you press that ring doorbell, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's a big one. I mean, I've had my clients, I'll usually put home is under audio and video surveillance, and I'll put it in the listing so that I've let the public know, I've let the agents know, hey, everyone, you'll see the cameras are at the front door, but literally we've had agents stand outside the front door and basically negotiate the whole thing of what they're going to offer. And then my sellers are saying, hey, we're going to send you this video. I'm like, hey, I don't want to see it. I really don't. Let's wait until it comes across in paper, and it's not really an offer until it's written and signed by all parties. So
yes. And I had that once in a home inspection. And we were outside and away from the home in the driveway. And I was talking to my buyer about why they wanted to get out of the home. They wanted to terminate.
Yeah.
And I saw the camera up on the garage, but it was real uncommon and it was way over there. And so I thought, well, that's odd. Okay, they have cameras, but they're not supposed to have audio without telling us first. So we went through why they wanted to get out. I gave notice of the termination, and the listing agent said to me, yeah, you handled that really well, Kim. And I said, how do you know? She goes, oh, there's a camera out there. We listened to the whole thing.
Wow.
That could have really hurt my buyer.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I gave something from the home inspection why we wanted out, but why they really wanted out is the driveway was way too steep.
Okay.
So those are just things you can learn from some other agents, from other people telling their stories, right?
Exactly. So you get to the house, you get that lockbox open, you step through the front door. What are you thinking? Are you going to lead by example? What's going to happen when you cross the threshold, Kim?
Right. So when I cross that into the home, the first thing I do is take off my shoes. Because if I do, they will, or the buyer will say, should I take off my shoes? And I say, yes, please, as a courtesy to the seller. But also it could be their new home, right? If they purchase it, it could become that buyer's new home. So another story, I rarely ever not take my shoes off. But this one situation, I don't know why I just didn't. We got the home, we won the offer. We came back for the home inspection and they had a big sign, please remove your shoes. And they had cameras. They had cameras. It was a little embarrassing, but and they had cameras, and so they knew that we didn't take our shoes off.
Yeah, right. Reminder.
Yeah. So that's the first thing is leading, as we talked about earlier, leading by example, taking off our shoes and asking the buyer to take their shoes off as well. Also, if there's children, to keep them by your side and don't let them run free through the house. I had a buyer who the children went over and were jumping on the couches.
Mhm.
So it's our responsibility as the realtor to keep everyone in the home close, to know what's going on in that room and to respect the seller's home, right?
Exactly. Well, you also, if you're not near them, for example, and they're, they could be in one room and you could be the next, but they could open a window and you're not with them. They didn't lock the window. Now, again, when you open that lockbox, you have to have control of the entire home, because you
Yeah.
are now the person who is now responsible. So if somebody came back later, what if it was a buyer you didn't know and their motivations were not, pure, and that home got broken into? That lockbox literally says what time you opened it, what time you closed it. So.
Right. And that's a good point, Tracy. If their motivation isn't to buy and they go unlock a window and they come back later, they're coming back to us, right? As the last person in that home. So
Yep.
it's really important. I walk around and I check before I leave, I check lights. I take a quick glance at the windows, there's a lot of windows, but you need to be paying attention to know where know your buyers and know who's in that home. As we all know, we get the alerts from our boards about those looking for drugs going to the cabinets, which we get it. The seller should be removing those personal items, but not everybody has a pure motive when they go into a home. So it's really important that we know our buyers before we take them. And I think that's really an important part of realtor etiquette, is to vet the buyers that we take through.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's a good one for you. This one comes up a lot. You're with your buyer and you're going home to home to home, right? You've seen maybe 3 to 5 houses, because after 5 or 6 houses, you've lost people anyway.
Right.
And now they have to use the restroom.
Oh,
and they
yeah.
say, oh, Kim, hey, I need to use the restroom. How do you delicately handle that situation? I mean, I can say I've had to before. I mean, during COVID, like if you were showing a house, like, what are you going to do? There was literally nowhere to go. But as a rule, it should be really, what would you say?
That's always a hard one.
Mhm.
And I don't get it that often, but I do get it. And what do you do when they say,
Right.
can I? Now, when this becomes a problem is when the house is winterized, especially. We don't prefer that our buyers use their restroom.
Yeah.
In a rare case,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
I know.
What do you say? No?
Yeah,
I'm like,
I'll say, oh, I'm really uncomfortable. I mean, is it possible we could make a quick stop when we leave here? But if it's a kid, I'll usually say, no problem, but it's
me
always an
too.
uncomfortable one. I just had a listing in Novi that in January, and my sellers at the end of each day came home and reported how horribly their home was treated. Right down to the bathroom and things that were left in the bathroom. And it was really disappointing to my agent community that we had agents that treated this home this way. So, it's really a good topic for us to have, to really, that we want to set ourselves apart from others. So that's really kind of what this conversation is about today.
Yes. And, I can tell you stories over my years of being on broker staff. We get those calls. We really do. We had one that the house was being shown all weekend long. Seller went away. They were showing the house all weekend. And they saw on their cameras that somebody had gone into the home and spread mud all the way in from the front door.
Yeah.
So now they have a home that's being shown all weekend, and now it has muddy floors, which isn't ever okay, but especially now that they're gone for the weekend, who's going to clean it up?
Yeah.
So that's one call that we've had. We've had another call where the children were up on the bunk beds and playing with the stuffed animals. And once again, their home was in show ready, and now we have children on the beds, and that's not okay either. And when that happens, I'm kind, but I'm very direct about it. We really need to respect the seller's home here, and could we please bring the children out here by our side? We just have to do it, right? It's not a free-for-all in there.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, have you ever shown up at a house and this happened to me. This is one that happened to me. And you got to the basement and it had rained the night before, and you maybe were the first or second or third, who knows, person in the home, and you discover this water downstairs. In this moment, you have an opportunity. And I look at it as kind of a twofold, but it's about building relationships with other people. So for me, when this happened, I immediately picked up the phone and called the listing agent, not to like, hey, you got water in your basement, you're trying to sell a house. I didn't see it on the disclosures, but it was more of, hey, it rained last night. I'm not sure how many people have been in before me or if you knew, but I wanted to let you know that we did discover a small amount of water. Here's a picture, whatever it might have been. When you make that call, it is met with, in my case, like, wow, thank you so much. It was graceful, and they were super grateful that I had called. They did not know. So think about opportunities that you have when you discover things that maybe the seller's agent is unaware of, because they're not in and out of that home every day like the buyer's agents are.
Yes, and I really appreciate that myself too when I get that call. And as you said, the listing agent's always very grateful because they don't want another person to go through that home and see that. I mean, they'll have to disclose it, but they want to get the problem taken care of. And they always appreciate that we lock the doors when we're done. Make sure that you walk through the home. How many calls have we had before when a seller gets home and the doors are unlocked or the lights are left on? Now, I always ask, do you want the lights left on or turned off? Because during COVID, we weren't touching them, but now they may have a showing after us. And so if I don't know, I do shut all the lights off before I leave. Oh, I always do. Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And the other thing is, even though there's a pile of business cards there, I do leave mine. In a situation where we had one where a new agent had just started showing properties. They didn't know to leave a business card. Like, they didn't know the things we're talking about right now. They showed the home. It wasn't with 5 Star, it was with the previous company. And they called me and said, your agent never showed up. And the agent was irate and the seller had cleaned and went on. And this agent was not nice about it. And so I asked the agent and they said, yes, I did go there. Well, this listing agent was very adamant about being correct. So one reason we use the lockbox is I called and got the records, and I proved that our agent was in there, even though they didn't leave a business card and they didn't turn out the lights. So they had nothing to say that the buyer was in there. And so let's talk about this. So say I have 5 homes, which is rare these days, but say I have 5 homes. We get up to this home and we've seen one, we're on house number 2, and my buyer gets there, or they call me, or they're in my car, wherever they are, and they go, I don't want to see this home. Could you take it off the list? What do you do, Tracy?
I'll cancel it, but then when you go into showing time and you cancel the listing, definitely reason for showing, give some detail. Perhaps the seller left specifically for your showing. You're not going to just say buyer schedule changed. I mean, you could say something in more detail. Hey, got to the house, buyer didn't really love the neighborhood or the next door home, or give them some kind of feedback that says, this is the reason we decided not to go in. Not just cancel the showing, give some feedback. Because again, this is about a relationship between you and your buyer, but it's also between you and your agent community. Your name is going to come across. You will run across this person again at some point. Trust me, you will. It's a small world. So, and they will remember you, good, bad, or indifferent. They will remember you. I'd rather be remembered as a good communicator.
Absolutely. And one of the things I do, if we're right by the home, or maybe we pulled up to it and I can tell this isn't it, I'll say, just give me a minute. Let me go on in the home. I'll open the lockbox. I'll go in. I'll leave a card. I'll shut all the lights down and lock everything back up. And then the agent, because everything is so digital now, they'll go, boy, you weren't in there long. And then I'll explain to the agent. But a seller gets their home ready. For me, when I sell my home, my house is beautiful. It smells good, looks good, lights are on, music's on. It's a lot of work, right? And so they did a lot of prepping to get you through that home. And sometimes it's just best to show up if you can. But if you can't, I used to do a lot of relocation, and we would have multiple homes, and the buyers didn't have a lot of time. And so at the last minute, they have maybe drove through the neighborhood the night before when they got in town, then I'll cancel them. But if we get there, I'll say, I want to use your time, but let me just go in and shut this house down.
Yep.
So, and agents will appreciate that because they have sellers that are working really hard and want feedback.
Yeah.
And we try to be as gentle as we can, right, with our feedback.
Yeah. So speaking of feedback, do you give it? I mean, you get it usually on every single house you show, but do you leave it? Do you see value in leaving it? When you're on the listing side, do you see value in receiving it?
Oh, that's a big topic. So we've all been in
How many
Con Ed.
minutes do we have?
Yeah, we got 10, 20. So we've all been in Con Ed and the instructor said, don't give feedback. A couple years ago, our instructor said, don't give feedback. So I'm curious to hear what you say. What I do is, I give negative feedback if my buyer likes it because I want to hit the price. So why would a listing agent want that? Right? I mean, I'm trying to get them to bump the price down. So I do whatever's in the best interest of my buyer. Now, if my buyer loves it, do I want to go, oh, my buyer loves it? Are they now they're going to pay 10,000 more for it? So it's an interesting topic. I do say, yep, we like the house. We're talking about writing an offer, but I'm not going to, I don't know. It depends on the situation. But when it is my buyer and I'm wanting to get the price down, I'll say price is too high. What do you do?
Well, I think if we had had this conversation 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it may be a different conversation than it is today, just based on where we're at with the market. Because I would say I'm kind of like you. And I think I took Con Ed about maybe 5 years, 6 years ago with one particular person. And he said, do not give feedback. I teach all my agents and my broker, you are harming your client if you give feedback. And but in today's market, things are moving so quickly that if you don't give some kind of feedback that says, hey, my client's really interested, first of all, we teach you that the relationship with the listing agent begins when you make the appointment. It certainly should be after you show the house and they like it. You should be on the phone calling them, giving that immediate feedback about, hey, I just showed your house at 123 Main Street. My clients love it. Hey, can you tell me about your offers? Are you able to? Let me tell you about my buyer. But certainly follow up with that same thing in giving feedback. Don't let that house get away from you without getting your foot in the door. But if you write back and say, and this was when I took that class, his point was when you call back and you give feedback and you say, oh, my client absolutely love it. Gotta have it. It's like the price just went up. You just harmed your client. So, I guess it just depends on the market. I always give some kind of feedback, even if it just was, hey, just got started with my client, wasn't the right fit, nice home, best of luck to your seller, something. Again, you're gonna run across them again. So.
And I do too, Tracy. I give feedback, and sometimes the selling listing agent will want feedback if they're trying to get a price reduction. They will want that feedback so they can use it. I have a house that's listed, didn't sell in the first 5 days, and I sent them over the feedback, and she called me right away and she said, okay, this said that the house wasn't really free of clutter. What do I do? So it can be beneficial, right? So we talked through that. She's packing, she's moving, she's elderly. And so she was mindful of it though. And so I thought that was really good. And it helped me to help that home be in better showing condition. In our case, we don't have a lot of options. She literally said at 70 some years old, should I carry all the boxes upstairs in the empty bedroom? And I said, absolutely not. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
So we talked through some other options of doing it. So feedback can be helpful, but I'm like you, they have feedback set up for a reason. And even if it's to say, hey, we're thinking about writing an offer, please keep me posted. Like my clients are interested in the house. Like you said, I'm not gonna wow it so that the price just went up in this market, but we do wow it because we want to win. So it depends on every buyer and every situation, right?
Yep. And so we've spent the majority of this little part of the conversation talking more about the buy side, and you just touched on the sell side. And I like that because again, when you're on the listing side, I set my sellers up in the beginning to say, listen, not all realtors will give you feedback. They just won't. It will be
Right.
sent every day for 5 days at the ending of their showing appointment. And a lot of them will just ignore it. And we'll be grateful for, any feedback that we get. But at the end of the day, if we don't get feedback, we know they didn't love the home enough to write you an offer. And at the end of the day, that's one piece of it. But when you have a seller that's difficult, who wants this price, who thinks their house is, again, it's their home. They're emotionally motivated to sell. It's their home. They've invested in it. I understand that. But sometimes their price is not realistic. And this is where on the listing side, the feedback is really important. We know that the buyer's agent is going to get paid at some point. They're in a cooperative situation where we should be working together. So if we're giving and offering feedback, it's helpful on the listing side in that relationship that listing agent has with their seller oftentimes. So that's why I appreciate it. Even if it's negative, it's feedback and it's helpful to the overall conversation with a seller.
Right. And there are times, you and I both been doing this a long time, and there are times we know what agents we're working with, right?
Mhm.
And I would say, read the room, right? Read their personality, know how to work with them. And the really challenging ones, I kill them with kindness. I had a buyer a few weeks ago that was looking at a home, and I kept asking the seller about some of the association rules. It was, I don't know. She didn't really care, right? My assumption was she didn't care if she sold this house, because if that were me, I'd say, well, let's figure this out. Let me help you so that your buyer can buy the home. But she kept just saying, I don't know. So I made a lot of calls to the township, found out some information. And then my first thought was, well, I'm not going to tell her. She should know this. And I thought, okay, you're going to call her. So I texted her and said, hey, just wanted you to know I found out the rule is 90 days. And she was like, oh, thank you so much. Because we didn't write on that home, but I might have been back. But I'm always building a relationship with those other agents, especially if they're snotty or snarky. They're probably just stressed. A lot of times they're just stressed in this market, and they just maybe need us to be nice. But I will tell you, when I'm on the other end of that transaction, they know how I sell and they know my loans close. And so we just really want to build that relationship, make sure our buyers are good. It's a whole nother topic because it's 1027, but it's really hard when a buyer gets out. It's really hard. It doesn't look good on us. So we really want to vet our buyers as much as we can. And that's a whole live stream in itself. But it will come back to you. And when you're on the other end of that, they definitely will take a good look at your buyer for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
well, good.
Yeah, just some practicals, easy subjects, but just practicals for agents that maybe have never been out there competing in this market, or just to get your name out there and do the right thing from the very beginning, right?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And be kind and be a good communicator.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome.
All right. Well, that's another awesome live stream for us. And looks like the weather is trying to get a little bit nicer. Of course, I just flew in from an airplane with 80 degrees to 59 degrees. So it looks like it's going to get up there a little bit today. So,
well, I don't even want to talk to you anymore now. So,
well, it's going to be 81. So,
well, good. Well, enjoy Ninja, and thank you, everyone. Etiquette is important. Starts at the front door.
All right.
Have a great day.
See you everyone soon. All right. Bye.
Bye.